problem is asking us to evaluate a function, and I purposely did some let's say fun functions here. This particular function is a piecewise function. So first evaluation is asking us for f of 2. So we need to stick 2 into the function that is f. So the way that you do piecewise functions is you go through and you figure out which one of these rules does 2 actually apply to. So looking at the first set here, or first condition, negative 2 is less than x is less than or equal to 0. Notice that 2 is not in that interval. These are the numbers from negative 2 up to 0. So you do not follow that rule. The next rule says 0 less than x less than 2. Notice 2 is not in that interval either because it says less than, not less than or equal to. 2 actually satisfies the bottom rule because it says 2 less than or equal to x. So the only rule, each number you put in will only satisfy one rule, and this one happens to satisfy the third rule. And what does the third rule say to do? It just says to put the number 2. So the answer is 2. Let's try f of negative 1/2. So as I went through the rules, can you see which interval negative 1/2 falls into? Negative 1/2, if you said the first rule, you are correct. Negative 1/2 is between negative 2 and 0. Therefore, the rule we'll follow will be the top rule. And the top rule says simply say negative 2. f of 1, what rule does 1 fall in? Which domain is specifying 1? Well, if you said the middle one, you're right this time, because 1 is, yes, in between 0 and 2. 1 is between 0 and 2, so we satisfied the second rule. And what does the second rule say to do? It says to write down the number 0. So that's how we evaluate a piecewise function at different inputs. You can pause the video if you wish. I have a third example on this video, but why don't you, if you wish, you could pause the video and see if you get the right answers to this problem. But if you don't want to yet, don't worry, there's another example. G of x equals this piecewise function, and first of all let's evaluate g of 2. So first rule says that we're going to follow the top if the number we put in is not equal to 7. Well, 2 is totally not equal to 7, so I'm going to have to follow the top rule. Top rule says take your number and square it, minus 3. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 minus 3, and that gives me 1. So g of 2 is equal to 1. What's g of 7 though? Well, notice that g of 7 doesn't satisfy the top rule, right? It's not equal to 7. It is equal to 7. So now we have to follow the bottom rule. So we don't bother plugging 7 into the top rule because that's not the rule we need to use. We look at the bottom rule, and the bottom rule is nice and simple. It just says say 5 and you're done. Okay, one more example, and this one's pretty cool because this one's actually an absolute value. This is the way that we rigorously interpret or algebraically interpret absolute value of x minus 2. But let's just try it looking at the problem. H of negative 3 would mean that we have to follow which rule? Well, negative 3 is not bigger than 2, it's less than 2. So h of negative 3 is going to follow the bottom rule. 2 minus negative 3, that's equal to 5. H of 5, well, 5 is bigger than or equal to 2, so that's going to satisfy and follow the top rule. And the top rule says to take your number, in this case 5, and subtract 2, and 5 minus 2 is 3.